from your perspective, please.
Oh, wow. I got to start and describe it all. Obviously, going into draft, I think there's a lot of different scenarios that could have happened. So we were well aware that, obviously we would be in talks with other teams on potential moves. There was a lot of conversations ahead of draft on what that could look like. And we were excited about the possibility of who we could draft in that number one spot for us, the first round and a third round pick. But obviously when Ella got available to us and it made sense with our lineup, that was something that we felt would solidify our decor, and bringing Ella to Toronto is something that we're really excited about. Then we were able to secure another second round pick, which we thought was important to be a little bit more selective on the forward front, which we wanted to fill some holes that expansion had created up front. And we really felt that we got some great size, some great character players, some versatility in the players being able to play center, left wing. Really, really happy with our crop that we were able to select. Obviously, Emma Gentry, brings a whole lot and a really, really high ceiling to develop, and just a great human being. Kiera Zanin is just very dynamic, offensive, smart, high IQ. I think she described herself in our interview as a rink rat. So she's always around the rink. So she's gonna love our coaches that talk hockey all the time, and I think that's a really, really good fit. Clara is a leader. Talking to Coach Schuler, she's she probably had one of her favorite years all time as a coach, and she gave a lot of credit to her leadership group, which Clara led. Just a great human being, great center, responsible, always in the right position. Again, a lot of size. Then we went with, remind me again of my picks here. Yes, Sarah. A little bit of unknowns, I think, with Sarah, with the group, just because of her international play and not being in North America. We've watched her internationally quite a bit. Bring some experience at age 27. Bring some size again. She can be a very offensive, pretty good skater. Really excited about what she can bring as well. And then Hannah Baskin. Great human being. Just absolutely loved my interview with her. You could tell they're great. They're going to be great in the community. I think Toronto's going to absolutely love them. They're going to embrace the city. All of those players were really, really excited about Toronto. They wanted to be in Toronto in a lot of ways. We were one of their top picks. So we're bringing in players that want to be there, excited to be there, and that will be a big part of our culture.
All right, in the room, raise your hand. We have Haley here with our first one.
You mentioned the size, Gina, for your 5 picks or 5'9" or taller. Just how intentional was it to add that kind of size to your lineup, and why was that a focal point for you?
Yeah, it wasn't necessarily we just went for size, but when you have size and you're able to move and you've got potential, a lot of these athletes have high ceilings. In this league, obviously size will matter in a physical manner. And, again, I think the size also matched the skill and the potential. So pretty exciting for us in that sense, for sure.
Gina, you got a lot of business done tonight. Those 2 trades in particular, was one more necessary than the other, or did you come in expecting both were happening tonight?
They kind of had to happen simultaneously, like they were connected in some ways, right? Obviously, we were in discussions of potentially, moving Soupy somewhere, and Vancouver was always of interest for her as well. So it was important for us as well to be able to be in communication of what that could look like for her. And so, moving her and having the opportunity to pick again in the second round gave us more courage to give up our first round pick, if that makes sense. So that gave us the courage to go, okay, it makes perfect sense to go after a D where you possibly were thinking forward if you look at our lineup. But the two picks in the second round gave us the courage of going, yeah, this is the right choice for us. And Ella is definitely, going to be a huge part of our lineup here moving forward.
I think Danielle gets credit for the, it's a win now league, or it's a get it done now league. With the Ella pick or the Ella pickup, is that sort of jumping in line with that as well?
Yeah, it's important to have success right away. Obviously we are, we're going to compete for a Walter Cup next year. And I do think development's still massive. Like in the interviews with the athletes coming up, I had a great question by one of the candidates that said, does your philosophy change now with expansion and you seeing your first 3 rounds walk away of your market? And I thought I answered honestly. I think the first instinct for us as GMs is yeah, development doesn't matter. If there's another expansion, you might lose your players still. And I think that's a normal reaction or feeling to start with. But my answer back to her was, even though that was my first instinct, I still want us to be competitive and compete for a Walter Cup. I still think in the women's game, in this league, in our market, it's still very important for us to develop athletes and to grow the next generation of athletes in this league. Hopefully they stay in our market and we reap the benefits of having them in consistent years and continuing to build the building blocks of their careers. But at the very least, when they leave our market, if they leave our market, they can look back and say, being in Toronto for my first year as a pro gave me the foundation to be successful for the rest of my career. And, we're in a small league and reputation is really important, and athletes speak and talk a lot. So if they're going around saying, I had a great first year in Toronto, it was, the standards were high, coach was demanding on me, but now I'm a better pro for it, we'll take that any day.
Time for 2 more, guys. Kyle, see.
So Ella Shelton is a Toronto Sceptre. When did that become something that was on your radar, and just how much does that transform the look of your team on the defensive side?
We've always would have liked Ella Shelton in Toronto. I think anyone would want Ella Shelton in their lineup. I think once we saw Pascal was having more and more signings at the D side, we felt that he would be more willing to let go one of his big Ds. So obviously we, started having conversations about what that could look like, and there was a lot of back and forth, and we luckily were able to come to an agreement that made sense for both teams, and I do think both teams won in that trade, which is great. What does that do to our lineup? It completely solidifies our D-core. It gives the opportunity for someone like Renata to maybe not play as much and be even more effective, which would be hard to believe her more effective. But it just solidifies our back end. I think it will mean that some of our offense is going to come from the back end. I think just when you think of shutting down a Vancouver, a Seattle, who will be very, very threatening. I love the fact that our D are as good as they are. I just think it was important. Also, with 2 new, I guess, #1 goalies or whatever you want to say in Toronto with our goalie core. It's great to have some really solid D in front of them for them to settle into that role and kind of let it play out. So it was important for us and really like the position that we're in right now with Ella in the back end.
Last one. Could you describe the feeling or the level of competition perhaps among the GMs? Like, now that with expansion, there are, you've got 7 peers, you're all fighting for talent. How quickly are you thinking up there, and how's that work in your mind as you're going through this process?
Yeah, I think, you got to understand the pool of athletes that you're looking at. And, in Toronto, we lean heavily as a coaching staff. So, we spent a lot of time just talking about players and asking, who do you like more than who's your list or who's your favorite? We had some coaching staff that were, in Toronto that were like, all right, who's your next 3? And just to compare who they would pick. And so a lot of work goes into it. It's very collaborative in that sense, how we operate in Toronto. I know your question was more on the competitive side of the league. I think we're all competitive. I think we all want to win. We all want the best players. There's you know, there's definitely a side of me, and I've said it to Troy all the time, like these drafts, I get not anxious, but I get like a fire in my belly. And there's part of it is like I have these great conversations with all these athletes and I get really excited about them. But out of the, you know, 40 calls that I made, that we only get 6. Do you know what I mean? So you see someone go, you're like, oh, I really liked her. Now she's, you know, off to Montreal. And, you know, so I think there's that type of dynamic, but I think we all want to do well. We all want to represent our cities to the best of our ability. We want to bring the best talent to our cities. So I think it's a healthy competition, but the competition is definitely there. I know we're owned by one owner, but I think we all want to put together the best possible teams. And I think everyone wants to win a Walter Cup at some point. So the competition is high, but it's healthy, I would say.
Thanks, Gina.